What is up, IDP Army, fantasy football fanatics? It's your man Jordan Reigns at 50 Shades of Drunk. If you want to follow me on Twitter, this is the Dynasty Defenders. This is the IDP Army. This is me, myself, and I. This is our fantasy football channel, and we are happy to have you today. We're going to be going over some IDP fantasy football sleepers, breakouts, bust, sleepers, whatever you want to call them. We're going to go over three players, okay? Three guys that we think could be, difference makers, whether on your team or off your team. Bring you some info on them. Before we do that, though, as always, thank you for being here. Please be sure to check out our podcast feeds. We have 4 different podcasts, each unique show across 2 different feeds, as well as the YouTube channel. So if you want to make sure you're getting all of our podcasts for fantasy football, Dynasty Fantasy Football, Best Ball Fantasy Football, IDP Fantasy Football, NFL Draft, all things fantasy, all things football, you're in the right spot, all right? We take a holistic approach to it, and that's why you're here learning about IDP, individual defensive players. We don't shy away from it. They matter. So speaking of which, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Some news today. Jeff Okudah did get acquired by the Falcons. So they're beefing out their secondary. They already have AJ Terrell. They added Jesse Bates. They add Jeff Okudah. The Falcons, I know they're kind of the butt of a lot of jokes right now, but defensively, they're doing some smart things. They're getting young players, talented players, high draft capital players, and putting them in positions where you want to close people down, shut people down in the passing game. Now, their division doesn't have a lot of prolific passers in it necessarily, but that also should tell you that they're not really worried about winning their division. They might already be confident in winning their division. So they're ready to go outside their division and play some of those guys and gals, or guys, I guess. So they got Jeff Okudah. So pay attention to this Falcons team. I think they might be cooking a little bit down there in Atlanta. So let's give them a shout. Only other defensive things we want to talk about. Shaq Lawson did re-sign with the Bills. Not really a big deal. But Jeffrey Simmons did get a 4-year, $94 million contract with the Titans. That's an extension. I mean, he's one of the best young defensive tackles in the league, interior players. Guys like Quinnen Williams, their deals compared to like Aaron Donald's deal. I saw a graphic the other day. Steals, what I'm saying? Steals, because I think Donald's making like $30 million a year or something like that. And these guys are averaging like 23-ish, 23. So good on the Titans to do something right, I guess. Draft Jeffrey Simmons when a lot of people didn't want to. Sign him to a reasonable contract. That's how you win, We'll see what's up with that. But let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of it. But actually, before we do that, if you are listening to the podcast, do me a big favor. We would love a 5-star rating and review. All right. We love our podcast listeners on both feeds. We get a lot of feedback on Twitter about that. We get a lot of feedback on YouTube about that. We get a lot of feedback on Facebook, everywhere about it. So leave us a review, y'all, because we know we have a steady, solid group of people that listen to both our podcast feeds that aren't just on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, and you can't catch everything, go follow us over there. Our merch, we have merch down below. You can get a possum shirt. You can get an IDP Army shirt. That's all available right down below in the little bar down below here. Go get a shirt. Support the channel. Support the guys at Offensive Points. We would love to see y'all in your possum shirts. I have been giving out some possum stickers around town, so we would love to send some of those off with y'all too. So just hit us up in the comments. We'll make sure we get those out to you if you do order the shirt. We'll try to get you guys and gals a sticker as well. Last notes I have really. No, that's really it. So let's go ahead and jump into it then. You came here to hear about sleepouts, breakouts, bust, and potential sleepers for next season. So we're just going to start with the player that I think could potentially be a breakout for next season, and that is, drum roll please, Ernest Jones. All right, this is a linebacker for the Los Angeles Rams, and let's just go ahead and dive into kind of what he has done since he's been in the NFL and why I think he's a good potential candidate to be a breakout IDP player next season. So in Over his career, impact plays, not a whole lot to brag about, but he's only been in the league 2 seasons. 5 tackles for loss, 6 passes defended, 1 sack. But his snap count did go up pretty significantly from his rookie season, where he only played 440 snaps, to his sophomore season, where he played 723 snaps, along with Bobby Wagner. He signed a 4-year contract with the Rams in July 2022, or July 22nd of 2021. So he's still on that contract. So they're going to probably use him for a little while more, and he's playing for more money and potentially, the right to make some more money. He's earned the right to be on the field. So in his 3rd year here, I think he could be, in line to be a breakout player. We also have, the kind of the auxiliary fact that Bobby Wagner is no longer in town. He has chosen to go back to the Seahawks. Why would he do that? I don't know. Sean McVay just wasn't what he thought it was going to be, I guess, whatever it may be. But Ernest Jones is still there. So potential breakout player in my mind for next season. Right now, he's the main linebacker they have, and they don't have a lot of draft capital. And we did see a lot of linebacker movement during the free agency period, but not really anything happening with the Rams. So it's setting up nicely for Ernest Jones. So he is my first, in this series of videos or podcasts, or however you want to, format this, or however you consume this. He's the first player that I'm kind of adding to my breakout radar going into this next year for IDP fantasy football. Again, a young player, 23 years old here. You can see, I'll make this large one more time. 23 years old, again, only 2 seasons in the league, and the Rams need cheap players like this on their team just to kind of compensate for some of the other things that they've chosen to do money-wise. So let's go ahead and move on to my next player. Let me see. I got these new screens. All right, so next player on this list. This is my sleeper, okay? And some of you might be like, Quincy Williams, okay? Well, how is he a sleeper? We've heard about Quincy Williams. We know who Quincy Williams is. I think he's a little bit of a sleeper because we don't really give him credit necessarily for who and what he is. Been in the league for 4 seasons. That's already a pretty big feat, just in NFL terms. But it's really these last 2 seasons since joining the Jets where he's kind of made a name for himself. In the 2021 season, 110 tackles. He had 2 sacks, forced fumble. How many forced fumbles? 3 forced fumbles. Just a really, really impressive season overall in 2021. 5 passes defended as well. And then you get to 2022 this year. Not quite as flashy necessarily on the impact play side, but still solid numbers with 106 combined tackles, a very healthy 0.29 points per snap. And the team showed that they are, kind of really investing in him, signed him to a 3-year, $18 million contract. That was in March. That was just this last month. So it's pretty nice for a guy who a lot of people wrote off when he got drafted. And, kind of why I have him here in the sleeper category is because he continues to kind of just be relegated in a lot of fantasy leagues that I'm in and in the conversation because he's, wasn't highly touted, wasn't highly drafted. And CJ Mosley has been that main guy. But we all know CJ Mosley, whether we like it or not, has had injury concerns on and off the field, whatever. But he's getting older. Quincy Williams, only 26. His brother, Quentin Williams, plays on the team. Robert Saleh has only been the head coach there, a year, 2? He likes Quincy Williams. He made sure that he got paid, and it's a pretty reasonable deal, all things considered, and a really good situation for Quincy to continue to be a solid fantasy producer. And again, I put him as a sleeper because I don't think it would shock me personally, and I'd love to know in the comments what you all think, but I don't think I would be overly shocked if we got a top 12 season out of Quincy Williams in the next 2 years. That wouldn't shock me. And I think in the fantasy overall IDP community, he's just kind of slept on as a guy a lot of people maybe view as like a linebacker 3 or a flex. And I think you could really start trusting Quincy Williams more as a linebacker 2 and maybe even a 1 if things continue to go forward for him the way that we hope. All right, so shout out to Quincy Williams. Now this next player, I have to start I want to start by caveating because this is going to be tough. All right, this is a bust candidate. Now, what do I mean when I say bust candidate? I'm not saying he's going to bust, but I'm saying, given all the factors, where you're going to have to draft this player or where you're going to have to pay to acquire him in your dynasty league or whatever league you're in, it's going to be a lot given the recency bias and the trajectory, the recency bias and just the overall good season that he had. So put that into the mix here and just understand that he really has set the bar very, very high in some interesting ways. And it's just going to be really tough to repeat that. So when I say bust, I just think that he's not going to actually he's not going to be the top player at this position again, at least not in this fashion this next season. And I think, actionable advice for this player that I'm about to reveal to you, would be to try to trade him away, honestly. And that is going to be Max Crosby. Oh, this is going to be tough. People are going to come at me, but let's really talk about it. Since coming into the league in 2019, solid numbers every season. 10 sacks in 2019, 7 sacks the next season, 2020, 8 sacks in 2021, and this last year, 12.5 sacks. None of those seasons are really big blow up outlier numbers of sacks. So I will see that he still has that, I think, coming towards him. If you want to look for a little regression, positive regression, shall we say, just look at the overall snap share that he's been playing. These are a lot of snaps for an edge player. 1,085 in 2022, 925 in 2021, 905 in 2020. I think he played a little over 700 as well in 2019. I'll just double check that here in the index, which I have open. And he looks like he 2019 Crosby played 750 snaps. So he's always been very, very durable, I guess. He's been on the field a lot. He's had many chances to perform these large feats. But again, I'm going to read these sack totals. For a guy that's played that much, he's only been over double digits twice, his rookie season and this year. Now, 36 quarterback hits this last season, 35 actually, 36, depending on where exactly you may get your data. Those are big numbers. Those are meaningful numbers. And that means that he really is affecting the quarterback, even if he's not getting the actual sack. He's very close. There could be, like I said, a lot of positive regression coming his way. Let's look at some of his other overall numbers. He came in second this year for Defensive Player of the Year behind Nick Bosa. So he did get a shout there, was drafted along with Nick Bosa in that class of 2019. And he did sign a pretty big contract this last year, $94 million. Woo! Big number. Average annual salary, a little over 23.5 million. Now, if you just project him out to have another season like he had, I think the really tough part is going to be this number right here, the 88 tackles. That's just such a big number for a defensive end player. Even someone like Max Crosby, who has shown a propensity or a tendency or ability to do it, it is what it is. It's 88 tackles from a defensive end. That's not normal production. So let's just look back at Max Crosby's career. 2019, 50 tackles, good number, solid number. We can work with that. 39 in 2020. That's not great, but it's whatever. 56 in 2021. And then you get this massive 88 number all of a sudden this last year. So if there's a player who could let you down and had a sort of a high level outlier type of season, it's Max Crosby. So I'm just putting him on here as a bust candidate. Not saying he's gonna bust, but he's a candidate because of all of these kind of factors kind of all thrown together. So, he's gonna have to come up with his higher sack total this year, maybe get to 17 or 18 if we do see him sort of regress back to his mean, not regress in a negative way, but just come back to what he's good at, a little bit more realistically. What if he just had 65 tackles? You know what I mean? You're going to have those extra sacks to make up for that. 22 tackles for loss this year, and solid number for Crosby. And again, I'm not saying that he's bad or anything like that. I just think this next year he's probably going to come down a little bit. But if you've built a dynasty around him and you want to hold on to him and you want to see if things really do pan out, that if you want to roll the dice and see if they do shake out super positively, keep him. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and keep him on your team, do that. But just don't get too cocky out there. Don't think that everything's all taken care of. Never sit on your laurels in dynasty, no matter how good of a player you have. One thing can go wrong or right, the drop of a hat in dynasty fantasy football. So short one today. Like I said, I'm just going to bang them out. We did the sleeper candidate, and I'll pull them up again here real fast just because I'm a fun guy like that. All right, so our bust candidate, Max Crosby, potential bust candidate. Our sleeper candidate was Quincy Williams for the New York Jets, linebacker. Sleeper because I think he has more upside than a lot of people really want to acknowledge. And then our breakout candidate, shout out to IDP Bomber, who's been on the Ernest Jones train for a while. Things are looking good. Not saying he's a great player. Not saying go, remortgage your house to get him. Okay. I'm saying, things could be going his way for once out there in LA. So don't sleep on Ernest Jones. All right, y'all, you know what to do. Leave a comment. If you enjoyed the show, we would love to hear from you. If you want to get access to our premium rankings and join the community where you're going to get all of our advice, and give back to us, you can give us a super thanks. That's available. You can join the Patreon, patreon.com/the IDP Army, or become a channel member. That'll get you access to the best ball rankings, the IDP Army, the IDP index, and our dynasty rankings. Everything's tiered, everything's updated constantly. It's like a second brain. And then hop in our Discord. That's a free resource. We would love to have you in there. We interact, we answer questions, we talk to you. We don't just leave you hanging. We don't ask you to come in there and just funnel ads to you and try to get you to opt into more stuff. We actually want to help you build a fantasy football team that you could be proud of. You know what I'm saying? A legacy that when you pull your kids over on the couch and say, hey, come here, kid, check this out, and they're really unimpressed, you'll know they should be impressed. You'll know you're not blowing smoke up their ass. All right? So, that's all for me. Till next time, IDP Army, be easy.